Welcome to Dare a New Belief, a place to discover what is possible for your life after the loss of a loved one, and where you will find inspiration, insight, support, and love, and hopefully a bit of laughter to help you through your day. Now, here's your host, Nada Hogan.
Welcome to Dare a New Belief, where you will find light and life, love and joy, healing, faith, and hope. A place where you get to believe in what is possible for your life. And today I have the great honor and privilege to welcome back Donna Mathiowetz. Donna is an inspirational speaker and author and strives to leave a legacy of hope, healing, and forgiveness by sharing her story of loss, grief, and resiliency. She began working in the arena of loss and grief, and I said 1997, but I think it's 1992. We'll talk about that. Following the death of two teenage sons within 2 years. I mean, my God, I can't even imagine that. Donna is the author of What Have You Done Since I Left? And A Journal for Your Journey. She has also created a card deck. It's awesome. And Donna has been married to a wonderful man, Dick, for 48 years. And they have 4 children, 3 very special grandchildren, and have fostered 3 children from 3 different countries. Donna, welcome back. Thank you for being here.
Well, I'm happy to be back. Thank you.
I'm thrilled to have you back. So for the listeners, if you haven't listened to part 1, please go back and listen to part 1 so you can get caught up to where we're at. But Donna's work began after losing 2 of her sons. Her first son, Tim, was 16 years old when he was fatally shot with a handgun. And my God, my heart just dropped when you said that. I am just so sorry. And she had a, and I don't know the age of Oleg, who came from...
He was 15. He was 15.
Okay, 15. And he came from a Ukrainian orphanage. So that is where I would like to pick up the conversation. If we can start talking about Oleg and the journey with that, because I cannot imagine lose one child is unfathomable, but then to lose 2 children, I just cannot imagine how you were able to do that. So if we can talk a little bit about how Oleg came over. He was in the Ukrainian orphanage, but he came over here to the States, and then you guys were taking care of him. He had cancer, and if we can just kind of pick it up and take it from there, so we can just be in this with you, Donna. Sure.
Well, I do believe that there were many people thinking that we maybe were really in some kind of trouble in the grief we were already experiencing after Tim's death, when we said yes to taking a young boy into our home who we knew had cancer, and let alone he didn't speak any English.
Wow.
So and I do believe, any of us who've gone through traumatic loss like we have, there is this grief fog, and I think it's real, and we don't think clearly. That's, I think, part of the reason, I guess, we recommend not to make any sudden changes for at least a year, because we probably aren't real responsible during those times. And I guess, us taking Oleg in at about 1.5 years after Tim's death, I don't know. We sat down together as a couple and we kind of said, well, here's the reasons we shouldn't, and here's the reasons we should or can. And that list of why we still really could was longer. And so I was home full time. My husband was working. Our daughter was away at college. And we had 2 empty bedrooms. And I guess I just felt, well, why can't we do this? I have a lot of time on my hands, and what better way to spend it than maybe helping a child to live? So we said yes, and he came, and I know it sounds kind of out there, but really it was almost like he was an angel that was sent to our home. He was an amazingly easy child. he learned to speak English in record time. He had this little Ukrainian English dictionary. He would set me down at the kitchen table every day, sometimes twice a day, because he was that anxious to learn English. And he was very bright. We could tell he had a wonderful mind. And he wanted to learn, and he did. He was understanding us within the first probably 2 months. And 2 months after that, he was speaking very clear English that anyone could understand. And we did have Oksana, who came as his translator for us. She spent probably a couple of weeks in our home with us, with Oleg. That was, of course, really helpful. And then after that, she would meet us at the hospital for his inpatient chemotherapy treatments. And then other than that, he would just, if he needed to tell someone like we weren't understanding, he would get her on the phone and she'd help us understand. So it really didn't seem like such a chore at all to have him there, not speaking English at first. It was really kind of a challenge and almost like a little one learning to talk. Like, oh, look at what he learned today. Oh, I didn't know he knew that. And he had this great sense of humor. He was very witty, and we laughed a lot. And he loved. Now, he did come out of a Ukrainian orphanage, and he just loved life here. I think he thought he'd landed in heaven when he got to Hastings. So, and compared to where he came from, it was pretty cool. So he was just this delight to have. And so, and as I said in our first part last week, Nita, that, Tim's circumstance was I saw him off to school on a Friday morning. And the next time I saw my beautiful, strong, athletic son was in his casket on Monday afternoon. With Oleg, we did it all. We went through it all with him. And we did the Make-A-Wish trip, and we had hospice care in our home. And it couldn't have been done any better. I'm, of course, I so wish he could have stayed longer. I think he would have made his, a mark on the world. But he made a mark on our world in those 6.5 months. And so he needed us, but we needed him too. And so it was such a give and take. And he was just, we still laugh. We still say some Ukrainian phrases that he would say to us. We still use some of those things, or we try to sound Ukrainian when we use a word. We still, and we're talking now 26 years ago that he passed away, but he was just this amazing guy, and he just loved us. We could be sitting on the couch next to each other, and we maybe watching TV, and he'd come down and he'd wiggle his skinny little butt right between us on the couch because he wanted to be that close. So it was, and that's why I say he was like an angel. He wasn't any trouble. He just was very, he didn't cause us any problems, and it was hard to see him go, but he even did that in stride. And, he knew that we'd see him again someday, and that was the good news. So, but, the painful parts were having to talk to him about that death looked like what was going to have to happen because we were all done with chemo, and something had started metastasizing, and we all know the rest of the story when those things happen, and we had to have that talk. And there was some really that I can play over some of those discussions with him like it happened yesterday, which were hard, but he did his best to do his best until he couldn't anymore.
Yes, man. I'm telling you, because I can't imagine, because that has to be, I literally cannot imagine that you're having to tell this child what is happening, and especially, and I don't know, because at that time, was he understanding what you were saying in English, or did you have to have an interpreter?
No, he was, because it was, probably a month before he died that we, finally, it happened that he's sitting in the living room, I'm in the kitchen, and he says, so no more medicine? And I thought, I have to be honest, because he was very bright. I knew I couldn't, string him along or not be truthful. And so I sat down with him, and I just said, well, Oleg, unless there's a miracle, there is nothing else that the doctors can do. There is no more medicine. And he said, so I'm going to die? And, and he said, this isn't fair. I was in Ukraine with nothing, and I come here and he said, I have everything I could ever want, and now I'm going to die. How do you overcome that? It's like, you're right, Oleg, it's not fair. You're right. It's not fair at all. But he was just, yeah. So we, and I guess now this far out of all that, I've looked at this and said, well, God, I believe that God knew what I was going to do with this. And so, he gave me the experience of losing Tim in a tragic, sudden way. And then I got the experience of Oleg, because it was cancer and caregiving and all those things that so many people do every day. And so now I can relate to both, because we've experienced it both ways. Didn't make it easy, but I see now, how we can see more clearly once we're removed from it for a while. And hindsight is 20/20. And I guess I realize it's all part of what makes me well-rounded to be able to speak to people in grief, no matter how it happened. Yeah.
I just imagine that after losing your son, Tim, and then with Oleg coming a year and a half later, that your heart had to be, of course, still grieving and still healing, but also so open and so full of love to be able to bring another little one, even though he's 15, but still, there are kids, there are little ones, and bring another one in, and knowing that he was ill. I mean, I just can't imagine the love that just pours from your heart, and how, and just the way you said it, because you said he felt like he had landed in heaven in Hastings, and he was like an angel for you guys. I mean, it just, to me, it's just, it has divine divinity just written all over it. And
that's how I feel too. Yeah.
So beautiful. So beautiful.
Yeah.
And did it help having Oleg here with you? Did it help to heal for you and for Dick and for Jill? Did it help for all of you to be able to heal the loss of Tim? Do you think he played a big part in that?
I think to some degree, but I also think it might have caused me to put my grief of Tim's death on a shelf. And it wasn't done yet. I think I might have set it aside because I was so involved with Oleg. And so when he died, then that was still there. There might have been dust on it, but once I brushed the dust off, it was still there. So I think there was still work to be done. And really, as you know, we work through this. This is something we carry with us the rest of our lives. It doesn't. 28 years later, 26 years later, there are still times that I feel more like I'm truly grieving. The holidays and the birthdays and the anniversaries and the family gatherings where it's just so it's just so evident that these guys are missing, and whoever else they would have brought with them are not here. And so those are still hard. And I to tell people that because there's still people who just hope it all just goes away. I hope I don't have to feel like this forever. It's like, well, I think you'll feel pieces of this forever. I don't want to lie to them and tell them, just give yourself another few years. It's like, how could that be anyway? How could anyone imagine not thinking about your child who's not here ever? It doesn't make sense that we would ever be over it, that, these little phrases that we don't like hearing, get over it and move on and all that. It's like, that's not possible.
Right.
And, and that's another part, if you want to go this direction about, the passion I have for helping people in active grief, the other side of that is helping people to be helpers. I think we fall short as a society in ways that we can be really holding a place for people in grief. Our culture doesn't do well with this. We don't want to talk. We want people to get over it. We want people to stop